There's a new cat in town, but will she be able to work herself into your heart? Grab that comfy cozy drink and let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome to Jade Gaming. Jade here, and today we're reviewing a new story-driven cat adventure game called Copycat. We'll be looking at these 10 specific categories as usual, and then give each one a number score between 1 and 10, totaling the overall Jade score at the end of the video, so stay tuned. But before we do, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell to get notified of all of my future cozy gaming content. And be sure to follow me over on Twitch for some more cozy chaos, where I occasionally stream when I'm not streaming here on YouTube. Copycat is a narrative-driven game about rejection, belonging, and the true meaning of home. It follows the story of a newly adopted shelter cat who becomes the victim of an elaborate plan when a jealous stray copycat steals her place in the household. Off the bat, I was pleasantly impressed with the level of detail visually. You're presented with a very realistic art style paired with stunning graphics, showcasing impressive lighting and animations, giving it an overall beautiful aesthetic. You're also given a second low poly art style when entering into the dream world, which I feel was nicely done to help distinguish between reality and dreams. The animations of the cat was nicely done, with its movements feeling relatively smooth and realistic, aside from occasional clipping and walking in the air. However, I can't say the same about the human NPCs. I feel that there should have been some more attention to the human design and animations, as they feel very stiff, uncanny, and just overall visually unappealing. When it comes to the performance, the game ran very well and seems to be properly optimized. I never experienced any game crashes, frame drops, or lagging. You can, however, check out the system requirements here to see if you'll be able to run the game or not. As for the audio, while the soundtrack isn't necessarily bad, it just didn't match the vibe of the overall game. When playing games that are highly story-driven and emotional like this one, it's essential to choose the best soundtrack that will complement the story and enhance it in order to really bring out the true emotions of each moment. It felt overdramatic and unsatisfying most of the time, taking away from the immersion. Which leads me into our next category of the story. There's no doubt that this game is extremely emotional and highlights an intense storyline. The story introduces various emotional, dark topics, including touches of loss, grief, anger, abandonment, harmful acts, self-harm, and an overall struggle of mental wellness on so many levels. I don't recommend playing this game if you're currently struggling with mental health issues, and strongly advise playing something a little more lighthearted. Now, putting all of that aside, the story takes you on an emotional roller coaster. You take on the role of a stray cat named Dawn that's adopted by Olive after she's lost her original cat that was also named Dawn. Essentially, you are replacing her previous cat, which she pretty much tells you early on. But then you're presented with certain events that reverse the roles. You are now the outcast, while the original Dawn is back and in the arms of your new owner, which you were just finally getting used to. You're taking on a ride of fear, comfort, acceptance, rejection, and then back to some fear in all sorts of different directions, coming from the cat's perspective all the way to some other brief NPC stories and situations. It does a pretty good job taking you through all the highs and the lows in a very realistic story that can be relatable on so many levels. Without giving too much away of the story, you're presented with the stresses of caring for elderly loved ones, while also seeing the perspective of said elderly and the mental obstacles loved ones go through in these situations. You're also looking through the perspective of a cat that has its own issues of abandonment and rejection, who is learning to overcome challenges by tapping into that courage that's just waiting to resurface. It's overall a story of various broken hearts on the path of being healed. The game does a very good job making you understand everything that comes with these broken hearts. It's also a very short story that can be completed in just 3 hours. Now, when it comes to features, there really aren't that many to talk about. You're presented with a limited variety of cats that you can choose from, having the same generic body styles, with the only differences being colors and patterns. I would have preferred to see some more variety with the cats to represent other types. With over 70 different cat breeds in the world, I hoped for a bit more variety in this department. The game also features a fully voice-acted narrative that you can turn off or lower at any time and use subtitles or captions if you prefer. You also have the basic settings allowing you to change certain keybinds, but not that you really need to, since there really aren't many things that you'll need to do, which leads me into gameplay mechanics. Most of the game consists of cinematics, taking you on more of a movie experience versus actual gameplay. While there are gameplay mechanics that require you to do quick time events or slowly run through alleys dodging obstacles, they aren't challenging. It lacks complexity and it's very linear, but I can understand why they chose this route, being it's intended to be a very story-driven narrative rather than a complex strategy game. And being that it's supposed to be an adventure exploration styled game, there isn't much free roam exploration. You are able to get to a point where you're outside and you have to figure out a few things, but you're limited on what you can actually do outside. I would have liked to see some more objectives outside and some side quests that could have enhanced the story just a bit more. All of the quick time events felt very repetitive throughout the game in my opinion. However, there is one part in the game where you have to strategically hide from some dogs that are after you that require you to think just a little bit more so that you can strategically get to a certain part in the yard that holds some food. I personally enjoyed that a lot more than the endless quick time events. The quick time events give it more of a mobile game vibe, which I'm not really a fan of. It would have been nice to see some more basic strategy gameplay and light puzzles to break up the quick time events a little bit, but still keeping it simplistic. Now, with all that being said, let's see how well it scores in each category. The graphics and art styles brings in a 7.5. The game has stunning graphics and very realistic art style. However, the human NPCs and various unnatural animations ruined the overall aesthetic for me. The performance lands an 8. The game runs very smoothly and never presented any issues with lagging, frame drops, nor did it crash at any point for me. As for the audio, it brings in a 6. The game didn't do a great job at pairing the emotional storyline with a proper soundtrack to evoke the real emotions of the game, in my opinion. However, the sound effects of the cat and the ambiance around were very nicely done. The features category gets a 6.5. While you have basic features in game settings, there really aren't very many notable features. I feel the game could benefit from having some more options, such as a better variety of cats to choose from. I do, however, like the option of listening to the voice acting or simply reading it as subtitles or captions. Gameplay mechanics lands a 4.8. The game overall feels more like an interactive movie versus an actual video game. I would have preferred to see more variety of options instead of the highly repetitive quick time events and some more exploration options. It lacks any sort of complexity and it's very linear. It gives the illusion as if your choices would have consequences, but everything you choose leads you essentially down the same exact path, making those choices you made earlier pretty much futile. The lack of mechanics could benefit from having the option to determine how the game ends based on your actions. Now, the story lands a solid 8. The story overall is a beautiful telling of overcoming extremely hard times and tapping into that courage buried deep down inside that takes you onto the road of healing and recovery and forgiveness. It's an overwhelmingly emotional story that can be a bit rough if you're not currently in a very good state of mind. Now, when it comes to originality, I'm gonna have to give it a 6. While the game does provide a unique storyline from the point of view of a cat, it didn't have any groundbreaking elements that would set it apart from other adventure games. As for the fun factor, it's also getting a 6. The lack of many mechanics and overuse of cinematics didn't make this as fun as I hoped it would be. There wasn't a lot to do aside from the various quick time events, along with a bit of platforming in one of the dream instances. It would do better with less cinematics and interruptions and more action by the player, with more varied mechanics and rewarding experiences. When it comes to the cozy level, I'm giving it also a 6. There are elements of cozy, but the intense storyline and situations pull you away from feeling any sort of comfort or cozy relaxation in my personal and honest opinion. It's not the kind of game that I would prefer to pick up after a long, stressful day that I just want to escape from and relax. And lastly, replayability is coming in with a 5. The game only has one difficulty mode, and a lot of the choices don't have any impact on the ending of the story, eliminating any chance to come back and attempt a different playthrough. You can come back and play the entire game all over again if you are an achievement hunter or if you just simply enjoy reliving the story, but that's about it. Alright, and now the moment of truth. The Jade score for Copycat is 63.8. If all you're trying to get out of this game is watching an interactive movie with a hard-hitting emotional storyline and simplistic gameplay, then sure, by all means pick up this game. If you're looking for more exploration and a more rewarding gameplay, then I would just recommend picking up Stray or Little Kitty Big City. As for me, it's gonna be a pass. But I can see where a lot of people would pick it up considering its adorable cat visuals, stunning graphics, and deep story. Let me know in the comments what you think of this game and whether you plan on picking it up or passing it up. I would love to know. And if you enjoyed this review and look forward to more like this, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell. Alright guys, until the next time, happy gaming. Bye!